What's up, peeps? Welcome to the Up and After podcast. Grab a mug. Let's have a talk.
What do you want? It's too early for visitors.
I then awake as refreshed and recharged as a newborn child, ready to take on the day's challenges.
In a galaxy far, far away, we do this podcast weekly, and we do it without any mistakes, and we introduce ourselves very, very well. Hi, I'm Chris, and welcome to the Up and After podcast, and I have my co-host.
Hi, it's me. My name's Riley, and I'm here to co-host a podcast regarding the hit 1970s trilogy of movies. Technically 1970s
Aliens?
and early 1980s. Alien, Aliens, and Alien 3. That classic trilogy.
I don't think the Alien comes out in what, 79 or 80? 81.
You're asking the wrong person, buddy.
I
I
would
can
do
look
a
it up because I have Wikipedia here.
Yeah, I was about to say, I would do a quick
Let's
research.
see. Alien franchise. Here we go. The first one is 79. Aliens is 86. Alien 3 in 92.
All right, that makes sense. And we're not watching. I mean, we're not reviewing Aliens.
Yeah. Probably make that clear.
If you couldn't tell by the introduction or the title, we're reviewing the original trilogy of Star Wars.
Ooh.
Boom, 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 boom. It took only like 4 years. I feel like it's only right because, I mean, we are currently reviewing Marvel stuff, so why not go with the other like big franchise, and review that? I don't know if we're going to get to the shows and all the other media.
If we get through all the movies, then we'll think about that.
Yeah, that
seems. I'm not up to date on all the shows, not even close.
Yeah, I watch. Okay, so for you guys, I should tell you that I have very limited Star Wars knowledge. I know anything I know about Star Wars is usually from like the fandom or from people
its
just
influence on pop culture.
Exactly. But I've now watched the original trilogy. I've seen Force Awakens, and I have also seen Rogue One. So, I'm a little bit more versed now. Oh, and then I watched the Acolyte show. And if we ever get to that, Riley, oh man, that's a whole hoot and a half. But yeah, starting with the original trilogy, I guess I kind of want to say up top that I definitely enjoyed watching it. I think what helped was just watching it with Riley and not like other people, like a lot of people. It's nice to have someone who's like kind of whatever about, like, I think Riley probably likes things in Star Wars, but he's not like
I'm not a crazy Star Wars
fan. Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I think it's also nice to like hear a crazy fan of why they relate to these characters so much or this world so much. But for a first watch, I definitely just want to have like a calm watch, form my own opinions, and like go from there, And it's kind of hard to form your own opinions when something like this has such an influence over like so much media, so much pop culture, if you will. So, but I still went in there like, okay, at base value, it's just movies, and a movie trying to tell a story. So let's go with that. So yeah, let's start with A New Hope.
Don't you mean Star Wars?
Oh yes, sorry, Star Wars. Period.
Yeah, I don't know. I prefer just it being called Star Wars. I'm one of those people. I remember as a youngin, when my dad first kind of showed me these movies, I was just so peculiarized, if that's a word, on the fact that we were watching episodes 4, 5, and 6. Now, I believe at that point I had already seen The Phantom Menace, because that probably was my first Star Wars movie, if I'm being honest.
I mean, I feel like for us, like our generation, like that was our first introduction to Star Wars because like it was coming out
Yeah.
around the time that we were like, kids, like
Oh
growing
yeah,
up.
and and as a kid, I watched the prequels way more. I mean, we had them all on DVD, whereas the original trilogy we didn't quite have that kind of access to. We had to like get it from the video store. But I watched the prequels a lot more as a kid. Now, of course, growing up, I'm not one of those people who like is a super prequel defender. I'll be the first to step up and say they are pretty trash movies, whereas the original trilogy is kind of stands the test of time for the most part as like bona fide classics.
And I know for me personally, like I said, I didn't sit down and watch these movies, but I know the prequels were always on in the background. I know my grandfather had the prequels on VHS, I believe. So like I do remember seeing them and seeing the characters, so I automatically just associated that with the original Star Wars, and it wasn't until I got much older and I was like, wait, what? Oh, so those are remakes.
It's funny you said VHS, I said DVDs. I actually just remembered we had Phantom Menace on VHS, but then the second and third movies came out after we had like gotten the transition into DVDs.
Yeah.
And I had those two on DVDs.
That makes a lot of sense.
Funny.
Yeah.
But anyway, prequels are their own thing. For now, we gotta talk about the original Star Wars, its own movie, which wasn't really made with any kind of sequels in mind, at least not realistically. I'm sure George Lucas may have had plans for what might come in the future if it did well, but what he was just trying to do was make his own little kind of space odyssey, fantasy, whatever.
It's interesting because I know we just talked about like how you said you just call it Star Wars, and I think for me personally, I'm fine with A New Hope. I think I'm thrown off by the whole episode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah,
like,
I think that's
they,
what I'm more.
Yeah, they could just throw that away. But like, I like the subtitle. Like that's fine.
Yeah. I think A New Hope is like okay, but
Yeah.
I think what really confused me as a kid was like, well, these are clearly like older movies, yet they're
Right.
called 4, 5, and 6.
Yeah.
Like I've never seen that before, and honestly, I don't think I've ever seen that since.
Yeah, that's just way too confusing. But yeah, let's dive into this movie. I don't know if you want to. I always get like going into the podcast. I'm always worried about us just recounting everything step by step. But it also just helps to like discuss like what I like and not like if we go step by step. But sometimes I'm like, we could just go over overviews for everything.
Well, I think specifically for Star Wars, I think it is important to talk about the first scene because it's like such an iconic kind of. It really is iconic, that first pan down from after the credits roll, you pan down through space to the planet of Tatooine, and you have the small rebel ship fleeing away, and then just the mighty hand of the Empire just moving over. Like everyone talks about it, but it is such just an effective use of visual storytelling of these are the underdogs, these are the big arm of the law that's coming after them.
Yeah,
and it is. I really like the opening sequence of this movie, and just like they don't spend too much time on frivolous dialogue here and there. It really is just a sequence of scenes that are dictated entirely by the action and what you can glean from that.
Yes, and one thing that will be brought up for later iterations when we dive into all the other stuff. And like I said, very, very vague of knowledge of what I know and what I've seen already. I think about like going back to this opening scene, what's cool is once again it feels like a war. We're thrown in the middle of a war, and we don't know, what side is what, whose sides, what they're defending, what they're fighting for. That's cool. I really like that.
I really have just such vivid memories of seeing the first battle for the first time when all the rebels kind of line up in the hallway and they just get annihilated by the Empire rolling in. And whenever I hear people mocking like, oh, the stormtroopers, they can't hit anything, I'm always like, nah man, I remember the first scene of the first movie when the stormtroopers just face roll all the rebels.
And like it's kind of crazy because if you're taking it from like a visual standpoint, it's just cool because the stormtroopers are all white and just no face. Like there's nothing to grasp there, and then you have the rebels.
All the same. They're all just like armored people, whereas the rebels are like individuals.
Yeah, and that's scary. Like it feels very cold, and I feel like that's the point. And I want to get this out the way because I know we're gonna probably say this for like the original trilogy period, but man, these movies just look good. I think they hold up so well. Like the
Yeah.
practical effects, everything just kind of feels nice. Now we could talk about the CGI and stuff added in later,
Well,
and some
it's
of
not just
the
the CGI. I mean, the special editions definitely like touch up the overall look of the movie so
Yeah.
that when you're watching it, it looks really crisp in a way that it really didn't when it first came out.
fair.
And I think overall it's pretty good the way they touch up the visuals to just make it look a little like good across the board.
Yeah.
So you can appreciate all the practical effects they did do. And then of course all the CGI stuff is just really distracting.
Yeah. Now, granted, I want to say that some of it is kind of like can get by, but I think it does come off like, wait, whoa, why is this there? Or it feels like it was added later. It's like it's almost like a meme. like wait, did somebody add this in? Like, is this AI? You know, like that's what it feels like. But yeah,
So yeah.
Go ahead.
So I'm just gonna come out there because obviously this movie is just a massive derivative of just so many different things. It's Lucas's take on westerns and sci-fi. But one of the
Dune.
biggest ones is of course like samurai kind of stuff.
Yep.
And of course the biggest influence on this movie was Akira, what's his face? Kurosawa.
Yeah. Kurosawa
The Hidden Fortress
Mhm.
was the big one. Do you ever watch it?
I never seen it, but I actually wanted to see if we could watch that on a pod at some point.
Yeah, that'd be neat.
Yeah.
I watched it in film studies in high school. Just as like because everyone had already kind of like everyone knew about Star Wars already, but our teacher wanted to show us kind of the inspiration for it.
Yeah.
But the Hidden Fortress is all about it's being told from the perspective of these two peasants who get caught up in this journey to escort a princess to a destination in the middle of a war,
Yeah.
And so it's like the entire plot. And as I read, the original draft of Star Wars was like even more derivative of this movie. But it's really neat going and watching it and seeing all the parallels that Lucas drew. And of course, whenever you see like lightsaber combat, it's very evocative of samurai kind of movies that George Lucas grew up with.
I think was cool about that. I think the concept of just taking Kurosawa's like baby and like throwing that in space is really fucking cool. Like
especially when you also yeah, go on.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, especially when you also throw in like Western stuff in there, like you go in the cantina and you have like the Han and Greedo scene where it's just like a Western shootout kind of thing going on. So there's all kinds of stuff being pushed in here, and it all works so well together, surprisingly, which you wouldn't really expect when you hear about it. Like if you were just to mechanically be listed, what's in this movie and what it derives from, you'd be like, that probably wouldn't work. But it does.
I think what's so interesting though is I feel like a lot of like feudal Japan, China, like that type of like samurai or even like shinobi, all that stuff, and then like cowboys, and even England with like knights and stuff. I think all those have like similar principles. So throwing that all in a movie, I think that kind of works for if you kind of like get down to the base level of all of those type of like what would you say, like styles, I guess. Like I think it all kind of culminates together really well.
And on top of that, it's also like heavily World War II inspired as well. So.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. Even a little bit of Nam in there, like later, would you say?
Maybe, yeah.
Because we're coming up on or in Nam at this point, right? By the time these movies come out, so
Vietnam was over by the time Star Wars was out.
Really? Okay, so
75.
So getting out of that, so I guess it could still have an influence if they were like
definitely. Yeah, it doesn't have to be like during the time, but yeah. But yeah, I mean, as I said, taking it from a movie where it's being told from the perspective of two peasants, you have these two droids who like no one really takes seriously in any way. In the middle of this big battle, they're just walking through the scene and no one's really paying any attention to them, which is really funny for one thing. Like I just love C-3PO just walking through the battle with lasers flying all over the place. It's pretty great. And it's not until 20 minutes into the movie it feels like before you actually get your main character. Um,
Which is cool. I always love when movies do it right. I love when you're not directly introduced to the main character. It takes a little bit time, a little bit of world building. I think when it's done well, I love it every single time. Never
yeah, and I
fails.
love the world building in this movie. I love how slow and just effective it is, and that you're not being just hammered over the head with exposition from the characters talking about stuff. The most you get is like Leia making the message that she needs to get to Ben Kenobi. And it's like,
Yeah.
hey, I'm part of the Rebel Alliance. The Empire's after us. We have the plans for their super weapon, and we need to get it to the Rebel Alliance. That's like the most like heavy exposition you get, and that's like
Yeah.
20 seconds.
And also, that literally is just the synopsis of the film.
Mhm.
I mean, that's kind of cool
Like,
because,
hey, hey, dummies, here's what we're doing for this movie now.
right?
The rest of this we can spend on character building, world building,
Action if we want
immersing
to.
you in the
Yeah.
fucking in the galaxy far, far away, as it were.
And make sure we're finding catalytic converters.
What the fuck was he saying? I was gonna go to Patachi Station and pick up some power converters. That's my favorite line.
It's the way
Oh,
he
man.
says it too. Like
He's so,
So, like,
whiny,
whiny,
in this
yeah.
movie. It's so great. I
Yeah.
love, man. Mark Hamill, dude. He's a delight. I gotta say. Even though honestly, he's one of the worst, like one of the not as good actors in this movie.
Yeah.
I love him, but like compared to Alec Guinness and Harrison Ford
Mhm.
and Peter Cushing, even he could be a bit.
But
He grows into it certainly over the next couple of movies.
yeah, I think it adds to it because Luke is young too, so it kind of like
Mhm.
it feels very.
I mean, it's just a great
Yeah.
use of like the hero's journey, you
Mhm.
know. People might joke that it's just Lucas opened like the books he had from college, like the film books,
Mhm.
and he just copied them. But I mean, when it works, it works. There's a
Yeah.
reason we study these kinds of methods, I guess. And he does enough of his own stuff. So, where do you want to go now? We've talked a little bit about the opening, a little bit
Yeah.
about setting the stage.
Yeah.
What do you
I mean,
characters?
we can
set
kind of
pieces?
get into like. Do you want to get into like the introduction of Luke and all that?
Sure.
Yeah.
Luke is a loser. He's at home with his aunt and uncle on his farm, where apparently they farm moisture. Which I mean, I guess that makes sense. They
Is
live
that
on a
what they're
desert planet.
doing?
Yeah, it's a moisture farm.
Oh, okay, okay. That kind of makes sense, I guess.
He has to drink his blue milk.
And do they speak? Do they speak of his parents like a little bit here?
They might mention
Like at the
it a time
table
or
when they're
two.
talking? I can't remember.
Yeah, the biggest one is when he meets with Obi-Wan, and he's like, "Oh, your father, yada yada yada." But I don't remember if there's any. There might be a line or two
Mhm.
when he's talking to his aunt and uncle. I'm not sure. It's been a while.
Interesting.
But yeah, he's a loser. I remember there's actually one scene that I'm kind of disappointed they cut, because he has that one friend in the rebellion who he meets up with when they get to Yavin 4 before
Yeah.
they do their Death Star run. He's like, "Hey man, it's good to see you." And
Yeah.
I think there was actually a scene where that guy is on Tatooine, and he's like, "All right, Luke, I'm going off to join the rebellion." And Luke's like, "Man, I wish I could go, but I have to stay home on my farm." And I thought that would have been a nice scene to have in
Oh,
there.
that
just
would
to-
be nice.
yeah,
Wait, so
like,
that was that like in like a director's cut, if you will, or like
I don't.
it's kind of hard with these movies with director cuts, but
The whole thing is a director's cut
cut.
without any change he makes to it. It was probably something that either never got filmed or was just like never.
was it like in
put together
strip
enough.
format or something?
Yeah, it was
Oh.
probably just in the script, I imagine.
That would be cool. So, Luke, was he okay? I guess I was confused about this. Luke, he had flown, like, was he a pilot at some point, and he just so happened to get a part in the whole rebel thing, or
Yeah,
was it like that was new
Yeah,
to
no,
him
he
too?
he was a pilot of like small craft. I don't know if he
Okay.
ever like went into space or anything, but
Yeah.
he had like his land speeder, and he probably had something that could get off the ground a little bit, but it was mainly just the land speeder, and what does he say? Like shooting torpedoes at womp rats
Mhm.
or whatever the hell when he sandbagged that one guy at the Rebel conference. That's another big Star Wars influence for me, are the Family Guy parodies.
Oh man, I forgot that how much like the Family Guy Star Wars parody kind of like bleeds into my memory, and I'm like, I don't know which
Yeah,
one is the real like what
yeah, it's
really
really funny.
happens and what is Family Guy, you know?
It's pretty great.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think Luke is really well characterized at the beginning, especially when they introduce the droids out,
Mm-hmm.
and there's something about the little like deal scene where they're negotiating with the Jawas to buy the droids. And like a couple of them malfunction, or like they buy one, and it just like breaks halfway to the house. Like, hey, this one's broken. It's pretty great.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's mainly a lot of just stewing and how shitty Luke's life is on the farm until we get R2D2 kind of moving off to try and get the plot moving, because of course R2D2 is like one of the most competent characters in the series.
The one that gets the most shit done.
It's great. I love it. It's one of my favorite details that like every time everyone else is so incompetent, R2D is like, oh my god, I just gotta get things moving here.
Right. I think there's like isn't there something like C3PO's like, I told him to stop, but he's like, I gotta do my mission. Or something like that. Yeah.
It's great because it's kind of subtle, but they show that R2D2 kind of tricks Luke into turning off his like inhibitor thing, so that it gives him more free will, so he's able to get the plot moving.
Yeah.
One of my formative memories of this movie are the Sand People, the Tusken Raiders. I'll always remember the sound they make when they go. It's great. It's great sound.
You know, I know another thing that I think Luke was George was inspired by was Dune, and having seen Dune 1 and 2, like the newer movies. I've never seen the 80s one or 70s one. And
The
it's
David Lynch one.
yeah, David Lynch one. I've never seen that one.
Was 84, so that would have been after the original trilogy.
Yeah, it's so interesting because the book came out way before all of this. So
Yeah, the first book was 65.
yeah, it's interesting to draw parallels between the two, and like kind of what like Lucas took from that and made his own, but you can still see it. Like, I'm like, oh, that's just from Dune, you know. But obviously, because Star Wars has such a influence on pop culture, I find more people are probably like, what, that's for Star Wars, or like that's kind of like, you know, the little sand guys from Star Wars.
I mean, they kind of feed back into each other after a while.
Yep,
you know?
Yeah, and there's like, these technically take place in the same universe. They could, from a galaxy far away.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. Anywho.
So moving on, we should probably move through these. So we have 3 movies to talk about.
Yeah, Obi-Wan and
Yeah,
Luke.
I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Alec Guinness does such a good job, even though he doesn't know what he's talking about. Looking at the behind the scenes of the actors talking about the making of this movie is so freaking funny, because all of them will say that the dialogue originally was just garbage tier.
Yeah.
Like the dialogue that George gave them was terrible, and Alec Guinness was like the lead of years of trying to like change it. And so he would be like, "Listen, George. This is not what you need to do here. This is too this exposition is too over the head of everyone." And one of my favorite interviews he gave was, so he's like, "You know, we were given the scripts, and it seems to me that the dialogue was quite ropey." So good. Yeah, so they made a lot of on the spot changes, which I it looks like it helped for the better.
Yeah. Obi-Wan is an interesting character to me, because he's introduced. He goes to Luke, and he's kind of like, oh yeah, you're gonna be the one I like kind of like mold into what I need, right? But he's also, I assume he's afraid of Luke becoming, you know, spoilers, becoming the same person he wants, you know, mentored, right? But it also comes off like he's like kind of a dig to Luke a lot of times to me. Like I don't know. Do you get that, or is it just me? Am I
I mean,
alone with it?
I will never forgive him for, for in the first movie he says your father was killed by Darth
Wait,
Vader, and then you find out in the fifth movie that obviously Darth Vader's his dad.
yeah.
And it's like, well, what the hell? That just means Obi-Wan lied. And then Ghost Obi-Wan comes back in the third movie, and Luke's like, why'd you lie to me? I mean, you told me that Darth Vader killed my dad. And he's like, well, do you see, Luke? Your father was seduced by the dark side, and in that moment, your father ceased to be, and Darth Vader was all that remained. So what I told you was true, from a certain point of view. It's like, what? What are you talking about?
And like, and you know, we skip ahead a little bit. I'm gonna jump into like the second movie, and then go back. But and then you meet like Yoda, who, and then like so basically you have like two Jedi that we met, right? Yoda's kind of a dick too, and it makes me think like, are all Jedis just dicks? Like, what the?
Oh man, I can't wait till we get to the prequels.
Yeah,
You're gonna love the Jedi Order, Chris.
Yeah, you know, I love the Jedi Order already. I just want to say that it's just a group of dicks.
Well, yeah, I think Obi-Wan is interesting in that way, but I do like how in this movie he does get a lot done. Like he plays like an active role in the story. He's not just like a mentor figure who sits back and doesn't do anything the whole time. Like he kind of leads the negotiation with Han to get them on the Millennium Falcon. He plays a big role on the Death Star and like turning off the tractor beam and distracting Vader while they get away.
Yep.
And that's pretty good. And then obviously he's there as like a ghost mentor to tell Luke what he needs to do at various points for the second two movies.
Going into this blind though, I did not know that he dies in the first movie. You know.
Yeah.
I thought that was very interesting. I was like, wow. Also, I didn't know that there wasn't really much lightsaber battling, because the one battle you do get is between Obi-Wan and Darth Vader, which is nice because
it makes it feel more special.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you know, I think one thing that Star Wars is known for obviously is lightsabers and the battles between the sabers. So just going back and just kind of seeing like, oh well, it wasn't really like, if you did get it, it's supposed to be special. It's supposed to be these big moments.
It kind of works really perfectly because the reason for it is that like the effect was too expensive to do all the time, especially if you wanted to do two lightsabers fucking clinking against each other. And so that did make it feel more special, and by consequence, the story, you know, the Jedi are basically gone. You know, there's not many people who are actually going to be walking around with a lightsaber.
Yeah.
So it all kind of works out in that way. And just to move ahead, speaking of the lightsaber battle in this movie, it's so silly looking, but it's kind of cool, you know. You feel the weight of like the story and the emotions, but it is kind of distracting just watching these. Like, you have one guy who's like an old man, you have Alec Guinness like on one side just like trying to do the choreography, and then on the other side you have David Prowse in the suit who like can't see anything, and he's just trying to do his best.
Yeah, it reminds you of fucking the Batman meme where he looks up.
He can't move his neck. Yeah,
yeah. So it's just literally the same thing there.
But honestly, I think it actually, for Darth Vader, and it works in a very similar way to Batman before he can move his neck, in that it looks a little silly when he does move around, but it does make like the image when he's not like moving or when he's doing very static static movements or slow, you know, not jerky movements, it makes a really cool looking figure, you know, very imposing. And I think the limited movement that the suit had for Darth Vader actually makes him a lot more scary in the second and third movie, because when he's fighting, he's just like very brutish and his attacks are like really slow, but they feel powerful, and I actually think that works pretty well for it.
Yeah. Obi-Wan's old though, so he was gonna lose regardless.
Yeah, he also got hold of one of Luke's books and said, the mentor figure has to die in the hero's journey, I see. Sorry, Luke. But, you know, moving on from Obi-Wan, we of course have to talk about one of just the standout pieces of casting in this movie,
Yep,
and
go
that's
ahead.
Harrison Ford as
Yeah.
Han Solo.
Yeah.
And he is so good in the first two movies. He is just so different from everyone else.
Yeah.
He's so just not on board with dealing with anyone's bullshit.
That's the
He's
thing.
just doing his own thing. And
Like,
it works so well for his character as like an outlaw smuggler who's just above everyone else.
it's like they took a Western person, like, and just threw him into this like fucking
Into a samurai
fantasy
space
star.
odyssey.
Yeah, like it's
Yeah.
just he's just like, bro, I'm not with this shit. Like let me out, please. I love that his whole motive behind everything is like, I'm just doing this for the money. Like he was like, yo, I'm here to smuggle goods, get my piece, and I'm out. Like that's literally it. And then Luke has to
Yeah,
convince him, like, dude, if you
Yeah.
do this, you get more money. You know, like you.
Well, I love how they basically do the same arc for him in both movies. So in the first movie, he's just getting hired to
Mhm.
ferry these two people to the rebel base, and then he just gets caught in the Death Star, and he he's obviously motivated to get himself out. You know, it's not like he's gonna turn on them now.
Yeah.
And then they get to Yavin, and he's like, "All right, I got my money from the rebels. I'm out of here." And
Yep.
Luke's like, "Are you sure you don't want to join us on this? Like, we're trying to save the galaxy." And he's like, "Nope, I got my money." And then, of course, at the end, he comes in to save Luke just before he fires the photon torpedoes into the exhaust shaft to
Yeah.
blow up the Death Star. And then it's like, hey, he's back. He's gonna help his friends. You know, everything
Mhm.
actually meant something for him. And then the second movie, they have the same thing where it's like he's on Hoth and he's just like, I just want to get out of here. I'm fixing up the Falcon and then we're gonna leave.
Mhm.
And then everything goes to shit. And he's like, all right, we gotta get out of here. And Leia just has to come with him just because. And then, throughout the whole movie, he's just like, all right, we're just gonna like keep fleeing the Empire until we can get to safety, and then I'm done with this whole thing.
Yep.
And then at the end, he makes a sacrifice for his friends, you know.
Mhm.
And it's basically the same arc in both movies, but they're both just done really well and they're
Yep.
really effective.
Yeah.
And he's such a good actor. I'll talk about one of my favorite changes he made to the dialogue when we get to Empire, but
Yeah.
that's that. Also, Chewbacca's there, and he's great.
Yeah, Chewbacca's Chewbacca. He's cool. It's kind of
I mean, they
hard
did a
not to
great-
like Chewbacca.
I mean, yeah, they did a great job of giving him a lot of character, despite the fact that he can't speak effectively.
He's like a big dog, you know? Because, like, you know, I would argue, like, Sam from I Am Legend is a character. Like, I like Sam. She's very cute.
Sam from I Am Legend. Oh my god!
I'm just saying, like, that's a character. That's a dog that
Yeah.
you love, right? And I'm like, Chewbacca's the same way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that brings me to another thing. Since we've started talking about Chewbacca, RTG2, and C-3PO, my god, dude. So the actors, I think Peter Mayhew was Chewbacca.
Mm-hmm.
Anthony Daniels was C-3PO, and Kenny Baker was R2D2. They suffered unimaginably during the making of these movies, especially the first one, where so much of the filming was done in Tunisia,
Mm-hmm.
and you just had Kenny Baker in like effectively a metal can,
Literally
just trapped in
almost
there
about
in the
to die.
desert. Yeah, and they literally like accidentally left him in there one time and almost killed him. Like, oh my god, I feel so
How the
bad.
hell
for
did
them.
he get out? Did someone, like, finally notice or something?
I guess I don't know the
That's
whole story.
scary,
But
dude.
yeah, like they just and Peter Mayhew just had like tons of fur all over him, just he was baking under all that. And then Anthony Daniels had the C-3PO body just like pressed over him. He was just squeezed in there really tightly.
That
It's
was
horrible, man.
fucking scary.
Yeah.
Do
Yeah.
you feel like that those characters are now like oversaturated, that they bring them back too often? I mean, I guess you could argue that with just every Star Wars character. But like just cuz
I think the idea of bringing them back for their own sake is a little silly. I like the fact that they are in every movie in the original and the prequel trilogy, and they try to give them significant parts to play, because that's playing into the original movie where, you know, they're just droids that no one really thinks about, but they play huge parts in actually, you know, setting
the
events
stage.
in motion that change, that change the course of the galaxy, you know?
Yeah.
But I think bringing them back just for like little cameos, just to say like, hey, it's tradition, we're bringing them back, I think that's a little silly.
Okay. I agree.
And granted, I probably should have mentioned this. I've seen Force Awakens, The Last Jedi. I still have yet to see Rise of Skywalker. So.
So when we get there, that's going to be completely new to you too.
Yeah, I know a lot of the stuff that happens.
Yeah, same.
All the silly stuff. I haven't seen it.
Interesting. So. Oh man, when we get to the sequels, it's gonna be nice.
True.
Because I have a lot to discuss there. Even though I've only seen Force Awakens, I just think, it's gonna be nice. Prequel's gonna be nice too, but prequel's gonna be really.
Prequels are gonna be so funny, man. I cannot wait to watch them.
We're in the good section now.
I think I'm gonna be recording just to get highlights of your reactions to some of the stuff. That's so fun.
Good luck, man. Good fucking luck.
So yeah, before we leave Tatooine,
yeah. Sorry, go ahead. Before we leave Tatooine,
I was just gonna mention one of the biggest why did he change that things aside from all the CG stuff they added to Mos Eisley, was of course the whole Han or Greedo shoots first thing. Overall, the Han and Greedo scene is great. I mean, it's just a classic like Western standoff shootout kind of thing. But on top of that, one of the craziest changes they make is they lay out the whole thing where it's like Han Solo owes this guy Jabba the Hutt money, and Jabba the Hutt's this really scary gangster, and Greedo's just like a gunman for him who's coming to collect the money that Han owes him. And it's like, all right, well, Han just shot him, and now he's going to be on the run. He has an incentive to agree to Luke and Obi-Wan's offer to get them off the planet because he's, being hunted by Jabba the Hutt. And then not only do they change the scene, have Greedo shoot first and Han magically break his neck to dodge the blast. But then right after that, they added a scene where Han and Jabba meet and talk in the spaceport.
Yep.
And that just takes away all of the mystery around Jabba the Hutt as a character. Is someone who you hear about for the first two movies, but you never see, and then finally you get to see him, and he's the main villain of the first act of Return of the Jedi.
Yeah,
and then on top of that, they just reiterate everything they already told us in the Han and Greedo scene.
And it's weird because Han kind of is I don't give a fuck when he's going against Greedo, but now he's please Jabba, please let me live. And I'm like, bro, that's, I don't know, it just feels weird. It just feels,
it's just so unnecessary and is a really bad change.
Yeah.
Some of the worst changes are in the fourth and the sixth movie. I think the fifth movie gets by with the most good changes and the least unnecessary changes.
Mm-hmm.
But
did you want to talk about because the Emperor side of things, the Imperial side of things? Did you want to get into, because I know you really love the actor there too,
Peter Cushing playing Grand Moff Tarkin. He is probably my favorite actor in the movie.
Fair.
And I love one of my favorite scenes is the council scene where all the Imperial officers are hanging out and they're just talking about the situation, and you really get to see Darth Vader for the first time. It set himself aside from all these people, where they're all just shit talking him. They're like, oh, your sad devotion to that ancient religion has not given us the plans we need and has not given you the clairvoyance to... And then Darth Vader just starts choking him with his mind. And it's dude, what the hell? This is crazy.
It's not only that, he says that fucking cold line. What did he says? He says something like, it'll be wise to hold your tongue. It's just some cold shit that Vader says to him.
Well, I remember he finishes it with the ability to destroy a planet is nothing compared to the power of the Force. It's dude, what do you mean by that? That's crazy.
Don't try to frighten us with your sorcerer's ways, Lord Vader.
Sorcerer's ways. I love all the actors they get for the officers. I think it's really good to show what's going on with their side and how they're actually panicking trying to get these plans back.
Yeah,
it's pretty great.
Is cool here too, because one thing I know I talked to you about in Game of Thrones, with the dragons, right, is by the time we get to Game of Thrones proper, we know that dragons have existed, but it's kind of but we never seen them, so by this time, who cares if you have a dragon, or not who cares, but if you say you had a dragon, I wouldn't believe you. And I kind of take that mentality and add it here, where it's okay, what you're saying is like sorcery. It's like magic. That shit doesn't actually exist. Like we've never seen it, and it's like Vader's like, oh yeah, here you are, I'm showing you, you know. And I love that.
It's a pretty great when you look at it in that context. It's a little less cool when you think about the fact that the prequels take place only like 25 years before the main series. Like,
oh, it's only 25 years.
Yeah, I believe so. Something like that.
Oh, okay. Oh, I guess that makes sense because Vader's like probably like 40 something. I'm sure Anakin was like early 20s or like mid 20s, I should say. So I guess that makes sense.
But yeah, I love it. I love Peter Cushing in this movie so much. I think he's doing, and I love the detail. I don't know if it's
intentional
detail, but you get Peter Cushing back with playing alongside David Prowse, who's the person who's in the Vader suit.
Yeah.
Where Peter Cushing was the original, not the original. He played Dr. Frankenstein in the Hammer horror movies, and David Prowse was the one who, after I think Christopher Lee played the first monster, but afterwards David Prowse played at least one of the monsters, one of Frankenstein's monsters. So they're like reuniting, 20 years later to play these characters again.
That's cool.
And on top of that, in the prequel trilogy, you get Christopher Lee coming back, and he played both the original Frankenstein monster as well as Dracula, whereas Peter Cushing played Van Helsing. So it's pretty great. I love it. All right. So, Leia, Carrie Fisher.
Okay. Favorite character in the original trilogy, I feel. I think to me, Leia was a character that I wasn't expecting to be as cool as she is.
Yeah.
I mean,
she gets shit done.
She comes from like royalty. She's a princess, but she's fighting for the rebel side. So she clearly cares about like and obviously I don't know class system stuff play a role in this, but she comes from she's siding with the side of the people that we assume are like the normal people who are like the average man, right? Even though she's a princess, not only that, she's like, she's actively moving the story along. She's the one that's like, I need to get the I was about to say blueprint, but yeah, like the blueprint of the Death Star, and like I have to take it to the rebels so we can find a way to destroy it. Like she's the one when fucking Luke and Han are arguing. She's like, you know what? Fuck this shit. I'm gonna take the gun in. I'm gonna shoot.
Yeah,
them.
that's my favorite bit. She just takes the gun, starts blasting, dude. She's like, "You guys are stupid, and I'm gonna lead us out of here. You can't be trusted."
I can't remember. So does she shoot the? She shoots the guys, and she shoots the crate, right? Or like the gate. Does she throw the gun back to them, or she just takes the gun with her?
I think at one point she might. I don't remember very clearly, but yeah, she's pretty great.
She's so good, and though like I feel like, and we'll get there when we get there with the next movie, and maybe I'll hold off, but definitely in this first movie, my favorite Leia. Like she's there, she's fully realized. She's the coolest to me. But yeah. Did you want to add anything?
I mean, she also fucking keeps the location of the plan safe, even under fucking the fucking that weird bally torture droid they bring in.
Yeah.
So pretty good.
Also, she got her planet blown up, and she kept composure. I don't know how I could do that. How
she had to make the decision of giving them a different planet to fucking blow up. That's pretty tough.
Yeah,
they're like it. They're like, it's like the rebel base is on Dantooine. They're like, oh, okay, and it seems like they might believe her, but they're like, well, Dantooine isn't within our range, so we're still going to blow up your planet. Continue with the operation. You may fire when ready.
That's wild. And I brought this up though. I don't know if this is a plot. Well, okay, so it could be two things. It could be just Leia's really smart and she knows that she needs Han, so she's going to say it regardless. Or it could just be that maybe they forgot. But her planet gets blown up, but she promised Han that she can, since she's a princess, she can pay him back. And I'm like, but you're not a princess of anything anymore because your shit is gone.
promising the wealth of the Rebel Alliance, I guess.
Yeah, fair. But I just thought it was very funny when I first heard it because I was like, Riley, what is she gonna pay him with? Her fucking shit is dust. Yeah.
And the planet explosion and the Death Star explosions look great. Like I actually really like the digital effect touch up they did with them compared to the originals. I think they look really good.
Wow. I would like to know what it looked like in the original because what I was gonna say is I think every single time a Death Star shows up or something like a Death Star cough sequels, I think every time they show up and they're shown, I think they're the coolest shit ever in every movie, from the originals to the sequels to Rogue One. Like, yeah, like
I mean,
every
just
time.
the idea of having this massive space station the size of a small moon that has the destructive ability to destroy a planet, like
and
that's,
calling
that's
it
a
the
wild
Death
idea.
Star. It's
The
like,
Death Star.
yeah,
I think they do a great job in Rogue One of making it seem like scary as shit. Like they did good with that, I think.
mm-hmm.
And
that wasn't even at its full
speaking of the
power.
Death Star, speaking of the Death Star, I love how we get the middle chunk of this movie as just this like little spy mission aboard the Death Star, where they're just like sneaking around and trying to not blow their cover while working to destroy the tractor beam and get their ship out of there. I love it. That's great.
Dude, and that's the cool. That's when Star Wars to me is at its coolest. It's not like the Jedi stuff. Like that could be cool too. Don't get me wrong, and especially when you're relating it to like samurai stuff too, that could be cool. But when it's like these smaller stories or like these smaller things that play a major key in the overarching story, that's the coolest stuff to me. And I think that this whole like the ship like espionage mission reflecting episode 6 and like all of that on what's that planet called? Is that that's not Tatooine, right? That's
episodes. Wait, sorry. Which one?
Episode
What now?
6.
Empire Strikes. 6.
Is that Empire Strikes Back or
No, it's Return of the Jedi.
Return of the Jedi? Yeah. What's that planet called that with the little creatures?
The Ewoks.
Yeah, the Ewoks.
That is not a planet. That is the forest moon of Endor.
Okay, so the forest moon of Endor is like, and we'll get to there. We'll get there, but it's just that whole section. To me, is supposed to. I feel like it's supposed to be kind of akin to this whole espionage mission, but it doesn't hit the same, Yeah. And maybe we'll dive into it once we get to that movie. But
yeah, I think I can probably pinpoint the reason why.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love how the core of this movie, like the big set piece of the movie, is aboard the Death Star.
Yep.
Because like you have the first bit with the Tantive 4, as it's called. And then you have like the exposition bit on Tatooine, and then you have the final bit on Yavin 4 and the trench run on the Death Star. But the main meat of this movie is on the Death Star, and oh my god, the trash compactor scene, that's a great little set piece. That's some tense stuff. And of course, who's there to save the day but R2-D2?
True. Also, I think that's when Mark Hamill has acting his best. That felt real. Yeah.
It's great,
cool stuff. Yeah.
Also, there's a fucking monster in the trash compactor. Like, what are they doing with that? That's scary.
Yeah, the trash compactor scene kind of remind me of WALL-E.
Yeah.
Because there's a trash compactor scene in that. I don't know if that was inspired by Star Wars or not.
Probably.
Yeah.
So yeah, we get the rest of that. We have the little stick battle between two old men, and then we have no, as Luke says, and then they get out, and then they have I like how they did have like a little quiet moment on the Falcon to mourn the death of a hero before we get to the last little climax on Yavin 4. But we do get to Yavin 4. I was about to reference how many Bothans died to get us the Death Star plans, but that's actually in the 6th movie, so I'm going to wait before I mention how many Bothans died to get us these plans. So, on Yavin 4, we actually get to see the Rebel Alliance in full force for the first time. they plan the Death Star run, and then we get one last little action set piece of them going down the trench to blow up the Death Star. It's very fun, and lots of people die.
Yeah,
including Porkins.
I was gonna say, I think what's cool though is you in these type of movies, in action movies, you can get like when you have jobbers that you know are gonna die. It's kind of hard sometimes to just, or I should say, maybe it's easy to just write them to be like nobodies and just kind of like just die, right? But I think what's cool is they kind of characterize a lot of these like pilots, like they have like cool little one-liners or like, yeah, I'm ready, like it's kind of
came from behind.
And to me, it's very reminiscent of Independence Day,
Yeah, sure.
And I'm sure Independence Day was probably inspired by it, but yeah, it's just that it's very cool scenes. I love when they characterize like the little characters that I know are probably gonna eat it, but when they don't eat it and they're like the ones blowing up shit, I'm like, okay, yeah, shout out to that guy,
There's too many of them. That's another one I remember.
And negative, it didn't go in.
Negative, didn't go in. But man, yeah, the final Shredge run with like Vader. Oh my god, the scene with Vader's like on the Death Star and he's like, "You two with me," without saying anything, and they just follow him. It's like, dude, that is so cool.
Also, I think what's another thing that it could be easier, right? Is when you have a villain and they show up or they're shown, but they're not doing anything. You see what I'm saying? But Vader's like, and this is one thing to keep for like Rogue One too, is Vader's like, dude, you guys are fucking up. I'll do this shit my fucking self. That is the coolest character. Like, that's one of the best traits that Vader has is you guys aren't shit. I'ma do it.
Yeah,
Don't see little boys that play grown men game.
That's kind of why I love the dichotomy they have between Vader and Tarkin, where Tarkin is the one who sits back and like tells everyone what to do, and he's like, he's the brains of the operation. Vader's the brawn. He's the one who's gonna go in with the soldiers, and he's gonna get shit done. He's gonna lift that guy up by the throat on the Tantive floor. It's like, if this is a diplomacy ship, then where is the ambassador? Just throw him against the wall.
Great.
It's great. So yeah, you have Vader, the guys chasing Luke down the trench. And it's like super fucking tense, and then Han comes in and saves the day. They go like, "Woohoo! Yeah!" It's like, yeah, this is great. This is fun. And my god, the score of this movie when they get to the end and they get like, "Dun dun 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 dun," and they just boom, and he flies away. It's so good, man. It's such a well-crafted scene, I swear. It's such a masterclass of build-up and tension and relief. It's so good. Great movie.
Shout out once again to R2-D2 being on the outside of Luke's ship. Just want to throw that out there.
He's a good boy.
Also, this is cool because, like, it could have once again been easy to write. Luke picks up a saber and does some saber and shit, but nah, he wins by just being a pilot, just being good, doing what he's good at. You know what I'm saying?
He never uses his lightsaber in this movie.
No. I mean,
he uses it for like training aboard the Falcon, but he never actually uses it in an actual scenario.
Once again, Obi-Wan being a dick, he just hands it to him at the beginning of the movie. He's like, "Here, try this out." And I'm like, "Dude, that's a saber!" Like he could just, yeah. But
it's pretty great. I think the first movie is just it's really well put together, which is shocking because another thing that you'll hear about this movie is it was terrible before the edit, and George Lucas's wife was the main editor on the movie. And she actually, like, everyone says she managed to basically save the movie in editing to make it what it is, to the point where she won an Oscar for the movie for the editing.
Yeah,
which is pretty fucking crazy. But yeah, I could go on about how I don't really, I don't really like George Lucas as a director. But,
right. I mean, I haven't seen anything else by him, right? But from what I've seen from the prequels, because he had full creative control over that. He reached the Snyder levels of like me not liking what he does,
I mean, it's telling that he directed the first movie and it had to get saved in editing, and then he was not the director on Empire or Jedi,
Right.
and they turned out to be pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not gonna. Yeah, he was. I don't like him as a director, but he's obviously like the creative visionary of the universe, which is what everyone fell in love with. So I don't want to knock too many points against him.
Yeah. And also, once again, it was all like funded by Lucas himself, and like his company, which is also still pretty cool. I think I want to say, and I quote me if I'm wrong. And I don't know if it's on the wiki. I'm not looking at the notes, but you are. It is I think it was like the first independent, like really big, like movie. Like it made like a lot, like if that makes sense. Like it was like one of the first of its kind in terms of like being independently funded and stuff like that.
It certainly changed. Like it certainly did change filmmaking for the rest of time. I'm not sure on the details, but you're probably right.
All right.
Yep, that's the first one. So two more.
Yeah. Empire Strikes Back. Want to say once again at the top here, my favorite in the trilogy, I think, and I think this is a lot of people's favorite.
Yeah, I think
from the trilogy. Yeah.
Empire's the best one.
Some people might argue it's their favorite Star Wars content ever. But yeah, it's really nice. And once again, I think this movie, if the first movie kind of set a precedent just in terms of like money, financials, I think this one's set a precedent for like storytelling wise. I think a lot of like sequels to movies kind of follow the formula of Star Wars, or at least Empire Strikes Back is what I'm trying to say. So yeah, let's go ahead and get into that.
I mean, yeah, this movie just. Like you're talking about storytelling. This is such a tight narrative that they do here, and I love how they split it between the characters. We have all the characters together on Hoth. You have this big battle sequence, which is I love how they just start this movie with an epic battle. It's so good, and then the characters split up. They're on their own journeys. You have Han and Leia and Chewbacca and C-3PO who are having this like tense cat and mouse game with the Empire where they're just constantly on the run trying to get to safety. Then you have Luke on this very personal journey of self-discovery and growth to become a Jedi, and he's with R2-D2. They meet up with Yoda, and then they like reconvene towards the climax of the movie, and they're both together on the planet like in this big climax, but they're still having their own like you can feel like the very different kind of climax that they're having. Luke's having this personal battle against Vader, which comes to a head with the big twist of the movie, and then Luke or Han and Leia and the newly introduced Lando are trying to just get away from the Empire once again, but in just a much more tight, closed setting because they're already kind of like in the Empire's clutches. It's really good.
Yeah.
It's really good. And it's filled to the brim of great scenes and set pieces and some of my favorite scenes in the series.
Yep.
Oh boy.
Man,
oh boy.
You summed it all up. We don't even need to go over this movie. That's it right there.
I mean, we want to talk about the new characters. I want to talk about some of the scenes in particular. Yeah. I love how the movie I believe the movie starts from the Empire's perspective. After the title crawl, it pans down to it might be like one of their droids going down to the planet, but I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure it is from the Empire's perspective though, and it shows that Vader is like, he is still an active driving force of the Empire's plots in this movie. He's telling people off and he's killing his officers if they're failing him and putting new people in charge. One of my favorite scenes, literally one of his officers fails him. He chokes him to death through a TV and then says, "Hey, you next to him, you're the new officer. Don't fuck up like he did."
Or you might meet the same fate.
It's so fucking good, dude. But yeah, you have, I'll be honest. I love snow planets, so Hoth is my jam.
That's funny because I was gonna say, because Lando's introduced right, and his planet is introduced here, right? the sky.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah,
my favorite. Like, oh my god, that place is so beautiful, and just the idea of that is
Yeah.
like so great. Some of my favorite stuff from this movie is just all
Mhm.
the Lando stuff, like, or like the Lando
Yeah.
planet, I should say.
Yep.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, you get like Luke. He actually used his lightsaber for the first time to
yeah,
fight a Yeti
yeah.
or a
Chops off his
Wampa if you're a nerd.
chopped off his arm. Pretty
Yeah,
raw.
they show it. They changed that a bit in the special edition, where you actually get to see that a bit more. Whereas before, it was just like kind of implied, like you didn't really see the Wampa too well. But they put a little bit more of that in the special edition, which I like, and that goes to show that a lot of the changes they made for the special edition in this movie are actually pretty good changes, I think. But we got Luke being saved by Han. Han's a good friend. We got to reestablish that relationship. He brings him back. Luke kisses his Princess Leia, who later turns out to be his sister, so that's kind of awkward. People
He
like
didn't
to
know
meme
though.
on
He
that.
didn't know.
They didn't know. They didn't. But that kind of moment sets the stage for the romance they're trying to tell in this movie, which I love how they just decided to make this like a big kind of romance movie, like, and it works really well. I love the chemistry between Han Solo and Princess Leia in this movie. I think it's great. You get the big battle with the AT-ATs, big walkers coming through. They're really scary. I love how they kept the idea of the Empire being, they're still really scary. Like they are industrially, militarily efficient,
Yeah.
and like all the rebels can do is just try and stall them as long as they can to mount an evacuation of the planet.
Yeah, that's the thing is like with all of these movies is the rebels are playing guerrilla tactics this whole time. Like they're the ones that like if we strike, we have to strike hard and then get out, because we don't have any, we can't go to full war with them. We can't just shoot it out in space all the time. That's not going to work because we don't have the men and the manpower for that. So I love that. That's really cool.
And that leads me to talking about quite possibly one of my favorite board games of all time, Star Wars Rebellion.
Yep.
If you haven't played it, it's incredible. It is an asymmetrical multiplayer game where one side is the Empire and one side is the Rebels, and the Rebels can't fight the Empire straight up, and the Empire starts the game with a Death Star. It is incredible. It's such a fun game, and I never get to play it, but whenever I do, it's so fun. And it really does do justice to the idea of the rebels fighting the Empire.
We played that once in college.
Maybe, yeah.
I don't even remember the like rules or anything. I just remember what they look like the board and stuff.
Yeah, it's a pretty great one. I'd like to play that again someday. But yeah, so we get the team splitting up, as it were. I love how Han and Leia. One thing that's great in the background of this movie, actually, that I want to talk about is the idea of the Falcon just being like broken down. It never works the entire movie, and Han and Chewbacca are just trying to fix it constantly, and they barely manage to get to work just long enough for them to get out right as like Vader's coming in and they're setting up a turret to destroy him.
Yeah.
It's great. But even then, they're still like dealing with all the technical troubles with the Falcon, and they do that through the entire movie, and the payoff for it at the end, which I'll talk about later, is so good. It's pretty great. We also get the introduction of everyone's favorite character, Boba Fett.
Oh man, he's so cool. I think he should like probably get his own show like later on.
Yeah, did you what'd you think of Boba Fett? Because everyone talks about how he's like, he's like the coolest character who got introduced in 5 and 6.
Dude, and maybe it's because I'm like far removed, but Boba doesn't do much. He doesn't kind of gets digged down like pretty quickly. He's kind of like they literally just took Boba's character and added that to Brienne's character, and I'm calling her Brienne. What's the actual lady?
Captain Phasma.
Captain Phasma is literally just Boba Fett, but in the sequels. So if you didn't like Captain Phasma, but you like Boba Fett, recheck your morals. That's all I'm saying. Your moral barometer is broken.
Boba Fett has a cool design. He looks cool.
Captain Phasma has a cool design.
I'm not taking that from her.
Oh, yeah,
I'm not saying she doesn't.
It's fair.
I'm not talking about Captain Phasma right now. I'm talking about like what Boba Fett does in these 2 movies that he appears in. He looks
Okay.
cool. He actually does get some shit. Like, he's the only bounty hunter who manages to stay on Han's tail and gets, the Empire to, he and Vader hook up on Cloud City to capture Han and the rebels and all that. So it's like,
Right.
he did good in this movie. And then in Jedi, he just comes back and is such a pathetic loser. I don't know how they managed to get him his own show after his pathetic display in Jedi.
That's what I'm like, I can barely remember. So like when we get to there, I'm a just check really quick. But like,
I'll tell you right now, Chris, he gets beat by a blind man.
I'm about to say, doesn't he like get beat up? And I can't remember the details, but I just remember like me and you just laughing, like, what the fuck is happening?
Han can't see it. He's like, what? Boba Fett? Where? And he turns around, accidentally hits his jetpack, and he goes flying into the Sarlacc pit. It's so stupid.
Boba Fett, where?
Boba Fett, where? And that's like one of the only times they actually say Boba Fett's name.
Full Luke, why is it so dark? How can you see anything down here?
Also, to compound that, I don't like the change they made where they changed his voice. I really liked his original voice, and the fact that his original actor just doesn't get credited on the movies anymore because they overdubbed him makes me really annoyed.
Oh damn!
So,
I didn't. Yeah, I wish I knew what he sounded like.
Yeah. I understand like the context like of what they do in the prequels and how it's set up, and I do think the actor is like good, but I still get annoyed. You can't just cut people out of history like that,
Mm-hmm.
George. No matter how much you think you can. Anyway, so which way do you want to go? Do you want to follow Han's team or do you want to follow Luke's journey?
Let's follow Luke.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Get that out of the way.
So Dagobah. You're talking about how you love Cloud City. I talk about how I love Hoth. Dagobah is such a great set, dude.
Listen,
like,
that's where we meet in the middle, Riley. Because God, Dagobah is so sexy.
I love how it looks. It's a set, and it looks so convincing.
It reminds me of like, okay, it reminds me. This is gonna be really weird to like explain. It reminds me of what a swamp would look like in like Gothic Europe, like like
like if they were to remake like the Wolfman, there's the swamp you would die in.
Yeah, that oh my god, that is perfect. Yes, that's what it reminds me of, and I just like, it's just so cool to look at, especially how they
more
set
fog machines,
fog machines, and like I don't know, like so like the ship is like kind of like almost sinking, but it's I assume it's like shallow water, so it's not fully sinking, right? And then
it eventually like fully sinks under.
Yeah, and there's like bubbles coming from like the side of the ship, and I think Luke does this thing where like the thing pops open, his little like the what do you call it? Like the cockpit top pops open, and he just sits there. And he's like, fuck. And he like does this like this, oh my god, like I fucked up like maneuver, and he puts his hands on his eyes. It's just such a cool scene, dude. And he stands up and like I think by this time he takes off his like pilot suit. And it's just he looks so fucking cool. I was like, dude, I need
also
more Dagobah.
the Foley artists. I don't know how they did it, but the sounds on Dagobah are so cool. Like all the monsters you hear, like just in the background, far off, but they're still like really threatening. Like you do not belong on this planet. Like mortal men were not meant to be here.
Yeah, it's just so dope, man.
And R2D is great. He provides a lot of comic relief that's really good in in this tense situation. All right, so Yoda is on Dagobah as well.
Yeah, the dickhead. He's cool. I like Yoda. Don't get me wrong. He's still a dickhead.
So Empire Strikes Back might be the only movie that I love Yoda in. I think he's fine in Jedi as well, but my god, dude, Yoda is so fucking good in Empire, man. He is so, because I love the setup of him just being this little gremlin who Luke is trying to ignore. It's like, dude, I'm trying to find this wise master, this great warrior who I need to learn from. Leave my droid alone, stop stealing our hot dogs, and go away.
Yep.
I love that Yoda steals Luke's hot dogs.
He's like,
This is very good, yes. Oh my god, dude. I love it so much. And just like him like slowly letting on, like, oh yes, I am the master, you seek. And then like Obi-Wan's ghost shows up and is like speaking to him super respectfully, and Luke's just like, what the fuck? This guy is who I'm looking for. And then, oh my god, the best scene in any Star Wars movie. We have all the stuff of Luke training with him and like doing flips and shit and lifting rocks up. He has a little moment where he goes into the cave and fights like the hallucination of Vader, and it's his face under the
Well, okay, before you go on to the best scene, I do want to talk about this small scene where you just brought up, where I think, and this is a part that's like very ominous and scary to me, because I think Luke goes like, "I'm cold," and then Yoda responds with "death." It's strong with the like, he's like death in there or something like that. Like death going forward is what you're gonna seek, and I'm like, that's so cool. And he's like, it's strong with the dark side of the force, and I'm like, oh, what? That's scary. But yeah, anyway, that was just really cool to me. I really love that little small scene.
Yeah. So I'm gonna move up to this next part. But I want to pull this up because this is seriously the GOAT. I'm telling you. So Luke is like, I need to get back to my friends, and he needs to get like, well, it's not quite at that point. He doesn't know that his friends are in danger just yet. I don't think, if I'm remembering the chronology right. But one of his tests that Yoda wants for him is he needs to use the Force to lift his ship out of the swamp, and he tries to do it and he can't. And he's like, I can't. It's too big. And Yoda goes, size matters not. Look at me. Judge me by my size, do you? And well, you should not. For my ally is the Force. And a powerful ally it is. Life creates it. Makes it grow. Its energy surrounds us and binds us. Luminous beings are we, not this crude matter. You must feel the Force around you, here, between you, me, the tree, the rock, everywhere. Yes, even between the land and the ship. And oh my god, dude, he explains the Force, and it's so good. I don't give a fuck what you say about midichlorians and microscopic light forms and shit. This is the fucking Force. This is the magic of Star Wars, and it's so good. And then Luke's like, you want the impossible. And he leaves, and Yoda with just one hand, he just has one hand on a stick and lifts his free hand, and with one hand pulls the ship up and takes it out of the water, and the music is just so enchanting. It is magical. And Luke just comes back, he's like, Mark Hamill's acting is so incredible. He's like, what the fuck, dude, this is insane. And he runs over and he's like, I don't believe it. And Yoda is just like very calm. He has both hands on a sticky, and he's just like, that is why you fail. Best scene in all of Star Wars.
Yeah.
It is incredible. It is a masterpiece of making you feel like you are in this fantasy universe where anything is possible. I love it.
Yeah.
Mwah. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I'm sitting on the midichlorian side, but no, just play it.
Oh my god, dude.
Yeah, nah, that's God. Anyway, no, I think that's really dope. It's cool in that scene with Luke, because Luke this whole time, not saying he is a little shit, but it's more so like I understand his situation of like, I don't even know what the fuck this is. Like the Force, if you will, has landed on my doorstep, like, and I have barely yet to see it. Like, so how are you? Once again, you're telling me to do the impossible by like I've never like seen it, I never felt it. So how are you going to tell me to do something I've never even thought about doing?
Yeah.
But yeah, I just
just love how he it's shown that he's frustrated with it, but he also has the capacity and the willingness to learn. Like he and Yoda are training, he's like constantly like, the dark side. Like what is the dark side? Is it stronger than the light? Like what is the Force? And he's just asking all these questions, and Yoda's like doing his best to put him on the right path. It's so good, dude. So good.
Yeah, you can also understand the frustration when doesn't seem like a master when he is doing shit like stealing the hot dogs.
He's a
or
silly little gremlin who steals
you're
your
like,
hot.
what the fuck am I here for? Obi-Wan, is this what you wanted?
Yeah, he's like, are we gonna start training? He's like, no, we eat first. I make you stew.
Yeah.
But I love one thing that makes me so annoyed. So the reason I don't like Yoda as much in a lot of the other movies is a lot of things. First of all, he's terribly written. But one of the things I really hate is like his overall demeanor. So
he becomes like
what they
more serious, right? In like the prequels, he's like he becomes like almost too wise, if that makes sense.
He's not too wise. He's a fucking idiot.
Okay, sorry,
and you're gonna see that.
They
like to pretend he's wise.
He's like season 7 Tyrion.
Well, the thing I hate the most is how they go way too far into like the way he speaks. How he's always like, putting the words like backwards and shit. He doesn't do that all the time in the in Empire. It's like, it does it like sometimes when it's needed. And the other thing is like he has like this goofy like little gremlin thing going on, and then as soon as it's revealed that he's the master, he becomes much more than he was just a second ago. He becomes this like wise figure who's like, oh, like when he's talking to Obi-Wan, it's like, what was I any different when you trained me? And he's like, no, man, I just feel like they lost so much of the magic with this character.
I'm so interested to get into the prequels because I like don't really have a reference other than him fucking fighting Dooku. And that feels weird because he's like doing really fast movements and like I'm like, what is happening?
Well, the problem with that is that like they in this movie he says like size matters not. In the like we all have the Force and that's the great equalizer. Anyone can be great if they, if the Force is with them, if they can master this ancient way that allows people to become greater than themselves,
Mm-hmm.
And they completely betray the idea that size doesn't matter when Yoda has to pull out a dinky little lightsaber and fight someone 4 times his size and jump around to compensate for the size difference. It's so fucking stupid, and I hate it. All right, we're not talking about the prequels. Okay. Whew. All right. So anyway, back to the good movie.
Yeah, sorry.
So back with Han and Leia and Chewbacca and C-3PO, they go through this asteroid field, and C-3PO is like, the chances of getting through there. I can't believe I actually still have the script up that I could do this. R2 says the chances of survival are 775 to 1. He's like, never tell me the odds. It's great.
Yeah.
So they go through this asteroid belt, and I love the scenes where like they just barely get through, like 2 asteroids coming together, and then the TIE fighters right behind them just explode on them. That's great. They go into this pit where they need to get out and fix up their ship.
That's
like
a scary monster thing, right?
Yeah, it's like a big worm they fly inside of, but you don't learn that until they get out. But there's like things living inside the worm, and like they have a great jump scare. Like you never expect to see a jump scare in a Star Wars movie, but they have a great jump scare where something just like slams onto the windshield or whatever.
Yeah,
it's pretty great. But it gives them the story kind of slows down because Luke's story's slowing down. He's starting to do his training, and the story slows down for Han and Leia too, where they get to start building their chemistry together, which is great. But eventually they get out, and we get to the climax planet, as it were, of Bespin.
Climax planet
is the planet's name. But of course we have the setting of Cloud City.
Hell yeah, baby! Woo-hoo-hoo.
And of course we meet the new addition to the cast, which is
Black Yoda. Williams. Yeah, go ahead.
Billy D. Williams as Lando Calrissian, who's really fun. I love Lando in Empire.
Same.
He's pretty great. I love how he just instantly have this kind of like tension between him and Han. It's like, oh man, is he still a friend I knew? And it's just like, nah, man, we're cool. Let's just hug it out. And then he has like this great tension with Leia. It was like, well, hello. He's so smooth. I love him. And he has this great like little half KPS. Great design. But of course, then it turns out he betrayed them. Ooh, that's not good. He's like, I'm sorry. They got here before you, and I had to sell you out. I'm sorry, Han.
Yep.
It's like, yeah, you traitor. I dedicated my life to you. Well, not quite. But But yeah, it's pretty fucking hectic. How you feeling about the climax here?
I like it because this so Lando sells him out, right? But then they're still gonna destroy the city, correct? Is that like because that's kind of, or it's
they're
like,
gonna. I think they're gonna leave the Imperial presence on Cloud City. Like part of their deal was that the Empire would leave. Like once they
yeah.
take Han,
Oh,
they
and
were
they
gonna leave.
didn't.
But Vader, Vader has one of the greatest lines that I try and quote. Try and quote as much as I can, but there's not that many applicable scenarios where he says, "I have altered the deal. Pray I do not alter it further."
Yeah,
It's so good.
yeah,
But
yeah.
it's a combination of that, his own guilt of betraying his former friend, but also
Mhm.
the Vader betraying him as well. So he decides to turn sides again and help Leia and Chewbacca escape.
And Lando also does a thing because he's like the president of Cloud City, or
He's
like the
some kind of like
mayor.
he's some kind of authority figure. We don't really get details.
He does a thing where he like announces to the people, and I really like that. He's
Yeah.
like, everybody, like, you gotta leave, you gotta go,
Yeah.
gotta get off this fucking out of the city. I really like that. I like the
Get out of the
stakes.
Dodge.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wait, doesn't he also try to
yeah.
throw a punch at Han when he first sees him? And Han like blocks it. It's like the Bolin thing, like Bolin. I'm sure he does. Hold on, let
I
me.
thought it was the other way around. I thought one of them punched like I think Leia slaps him later after he betrays him and comes back and says, "I want to help you." I don't quite remember. Oh, and then Chewbacca tries to like strangle him. He's like, "No, I'm trying to help you." It's great.
I thought when he first saw Han, he's like, "What's up, man?" He throws a punch and Han blocks it.
I don't think that's a thing. I don't think that's a thing.
All right, I'm gonna find it one day, and I'm gonna show you.
All right, you said that to me. I'd be glad to see it. So, we have Luke eventually coming back, and this is one thing that's like kind of a plot hole that people talk about. I don't know if we ever talked about it after we watched, but it's really funny how, it's like the story's told, and Han and Leia and Chewbacca go from Hoth, and they land on that asteroid, and they fix up their ship as best they can, and then they get to Cloud City, and then they're betrayed and they're captured. Then you have Luke going from Hoth to Dagobah, and it seems like he goes through a pretty long training arc, and then he gets noticed that his friends are captured, and he has to go to Cloud City to save them. So you have these two like timelines that are seemingly going on at the same time, but it seems like there's a lot more time in Luke's story. And yet, he gets there at Cloud City, and the timelines reconverge.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of like weird, but whatever. It's not a big deal. It's just kind of funny. But yeah, like I said earlier, they get back together, and you have this kind of tense scene. First of all, you have the great scene where Han gets frozen in carbonite because Boba Fett's gonna sell him back to Jabba as a bounty hunter. And as I alluded to earlier, you have this great changed line where Harrison, like, Leia's like, "I love you," and the original line in the script was Han Solo just saying, "I love you too," or something. But he decided it would be more in character for him to say, "I know," and then just go in. And I'm like, yeah, that's a pretty good change. Good on you. Good on you, Harrison Ford. That was a good change. But yeah, it's pretty emotional because you have like they finally managed to sort out how they feel about each other, and then they're separated, and that leads a lot of the emotional stakes going to the third movie. But then you have Lando and Leia and Chewbacca trying to escape, and this is where I get to gush about the subtle Millennium Falcon stuff going on in this movie, because it's been damaged the whole time. They had to land in a worm on an asteroid to try and fix it up as best they can. Then they landed on Cloud City, and it's like, Lando, we need you to fix this thing up. And then he's like, yeah, man, sorry, I actually put a thing on there to stop you from taking off, but I'm gonna get it fixed. And then even when they get that off and they get onto the ship and they're being chased down and shot at, it's like, it still won't come off. What's going on? And finally, after the entire movie, R2-D2 reconnects with their team. He gets on the ship and he's like, fuck this, fixed, let's go. And it's like, dude, R2-D2's the best character, man. He gets on there and in like 5 seconds fixes the ship and gets them out of there. It's so good.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I love it. And then, of course, you have Luke and Vader.
Yeah. I want to talk about this a little bit, just because I think was interesting to me is Luke doesn't finish his training, right? He immediately is
Mhm.
like, "Oh, my friends are in danger. I'm gonna leave." And
It's like,
Obi-Wan,
no,
because
you must not.
yeah, it's the ghost of
Yeah.
Obi-Wan and Yoda being like, "If you do this,
You'll
it's
be in
not
danger.
gonna, yeah, you're gonna be in danger. It's not gonna be end well for you." And then Obi-Wan brings up the idea of like, "I'm afraid that if you do this, you're gonna fall into the steps of my last person, my mentee, if you will." And what's interesting to me though is Obi-Wan saying that because he feels like Vader's gonna try to convince Luke to join the dark side?
Yeah, because he does.
Because he does, like, right, like he's literally actively trying to get Luke on his side, right?
Join me, Luke.
Yeah.
Together we will rule the galaxy.
Right.
Yeah.
What's cool about that though is what I love about this whole ending climax is Luke is fueled off of nothing but like hatred and like anger, and that's kind of how he like loses in a way, you know, like. I say in a way he loses. Oh, he gets his fucking arm going. Yeah, and I just think that's a really cool dynamic rather than just having him solely like not fight the urge of darkness, if you will, and he's just like, oh well, I mastered it, I did my training, and I'm good, right? And like, yeah, he might lose because he's not really he never fought anyone with a lightsaber, sure, or not even lose, but he might stumble in a fight because he's not really good at a saber. But it's not that, it's much more than that. Is based on feelings and emotions rather than the art of fighting, if that makes any sense. I think that's a cooler route to go than him just not being able to do it because he's just not able to do it. And Vader doesn't want to kill him, or, you know, he's not trying to like, he's trying to convince him to come to the side, and that's cooler than just, I don't like you, Luke, I want to kill you. You know?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we didn't mention it, but we get a scene with Vader talking to the Emperor, and so our first look at the Emperor. And, you know, they start to formulate the plan of maybe he could join us. Ooh. But, you know.
But that would mean, if that was to happen, though, that would mean that, and obviously this is probably later shit, this is all lore shit, but like, wouldn't that mean that Luke would have to kill Vader anyway, right?
So I think that's the plan of the Emperor. The Emperor only wants one apprentice, so he would want to, you know, he believes that Luke has the potential to be stronger than Vader, and so he obviously knows that Luke is Vader's son, so he wants Luke to kill Vader and become stronger and become his apprentice. Whereas Vader, I think he wants to bring Luke on, and I believe he mentioned that he wants to overthrow the Emperor, and then they will rule the galaxy together.
He says that in last, right? Or
I think he might say in Empire. I'm pretty sure in Cloud City he says like, we will overthrow the Emperor and we will rule together. And then he might bring it up later in Return of the Jedi. But and that kind of they eventually like make that part of like the Sith lore, like, you know, the Sith are destined to, you know, kill their master, become the master, and then take on a new apprentice or whatever.
Yeah.
But you know, it's a pretty great fight compared to the first movie.
Oh yeah, definitely. And then you get some cool lines like the Vader saying, "You have grown much, young one." He's like, "You'll find I'm full of surprises."
I like him. He's like, "You have learned much, young Skywalker, but you are not a Jedi yet." And oh my god, he's scary. I love the scene where he has like his blue lightsaber and then just red. It's just like, I'm here and now we will fight.
Your destiny lies with me, Skywalker.
It's so great, dude. James Earl Jones is so good as the voice of Vader. Yeah. It's impeccable.
It's nice. I saw a quick sidebar. Someone like, there was a post and it was like, name a actor you could just give a bunch of gibberish that means nothing, but because they said it sound like it means something. And the top two were Keith David and James Earl Jones.
Yep, that's about right.
Yep.
But yeah, and then the last thing to obviously talk about here is like the ending of the fight where he cuts off Luke's hand, which is already like a holy fuck, like you didn't expect that to happen. Like, that's not something that's supposed to happen in a movie. Like the main character loses the big final battle and he gets like horribly mutilated. That's crazy. and then I am
Top it
your
all
father.
off. Yeah.
And this is one of those things where I wish I knew what this was like. First of all, I want to be in the theater where this first is revealed and see what
Yeah.
audiences' reactions were. And also, I don't remember when I found out that Darth Vader was Luke's father.
Mm-hmm.
I don't, because I was too young. So I've always kind of like, as long as I've had cognitive memory or whatever, I've been in the headspace of, oh yeah, Darth Vader is Luke Skywalker's father,
Yeah.
But I want to know what it's like learning that for the first time.
So what's funny about that isn't like when they showed this movie to Germans, they thought it was funny that Americans didn't know it because Vader means father or something
Father,
like that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Father.
People were like, well, it's right there. Right.
I think, I've heard that was unintentional. Like George Lucas just picked the name because he thought it sounded cool. Because
okay.
I don't believe it was planned for Vader to be his father until Empire. I could be wrong about that, and I don't know if we can know for sure, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't planned.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. But yeah, I honestly, that's me too. Especially, I mean, just key moments in like cinema of like twist and stuff. I always was like, damn, I would love to know what the theater was like when this thing happened. And definitely, this is one of those moments I agree with. Like, if I would have heard "I am your father" and not know, I'd be like, holy fuck. I mean, I would have had a bunch of questions afterwards, like, how the fuck did that happen? When did Vader, lay some pipe down, lay his saber down, but like,
why did Obi-Wan lie to us? Well, what I don't know is true from a certain point
and
of
why
view.
didn't Yoda tell him? Because Yoda knew too. So
he knew too. Those bastards.
The Jedi suck. Anyway,
Yeah.
Nah.
There's not much else to say about it, though. It'd be interesting to know what that's like.
Yeah.
But overall, and I love how just somber and depressing the ending of this movie is. It's like, yep, heroes basically just lose. Han is captured, he's gone. Luke, he's lost his hand. He's like, his dad is the evil super Nazi villain.
Yeah.
And the Empire, they're like bringing the rebels on the run, so there's not much good going on.
We don't know if we're getting another movie after this, so cheers.
I'm pretty sure they already had the next one planned.
Yeah.
But yeah, Empire. It's pretty great. I think I do like it better than the first one. The first New Hope and Empire are the two best movies. I think everyone can kind of agree on that.
Yeah, I just think that one thing I always think about when like sequels and stuff is like, are they expanding the lore more and also telling a really cool story while doing it? And that's usually why I typically like sequels more than the originals.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, I'm not saying always, but typically. So like with this movie, it's like, yeah, they just took everything that I like about the first one and they just play into it more. If I like the war stuff, I'm getting the war stuff. Do I like cool settings? I'm getting the cool settings. Am I getting lightsaber battle? Not only are you getting lightsaber battle, you're getting some cool lightsaber battles. Am I getting more lore with the world building? Hell yeah, you're going to get the Jedi. You're going to get the the different planets, the Cloud City, and all that. What's going on? Yeah, the Force. Yeah, all that. So that's personally why I like this one more than the first one. Because the first one feels like a beginning movie. It feels like it's setting up something, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's kind of why I don't know if you've seen them yet, but like Dune 1, it's a good movie. I think that movie has a really like slow burn, and I think the payoff is done really well. I think the second movie is just great because it's like everything they set up in the first one is perfect for the second one. You see what I'm saying? But yeah, that's kind of how I feel about Star Wars too. Is the second movie just does everything that I liked about the first one, just more and better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just such a tight narrative. It really is. So, a lot of that thanks to Lawrence Kasdan. Anyway, now we get to
Return of the Jedi.
How do you feel about this one?
The more I think about this movie, the more I think I kind of sit on the side that I don't like it. When we first watched it, I was like, okay, that was fine. I wasn't like jumping for joy. It didn't feel like how I felt about uh Empire Strikes Back. This movie is just so weird coming off the heels of uh Empire Strikes Back, because the beginning of this movie, first of all, they do my favorite character a huge disservice, so whatever. Um and then it kind of just meanders until the end to me. And I don't know if other people feel that way, but once the little creatures are introduced, I'm so bored. Like, low key.
So you're not on board with the Ewoks?
Nah, man. I don't know if other people feel that way, because they're cute. You know, I'm not saying they were terrible. It's just that it felt weird. Like, I'm like, why are we going here? Vader also kind of feels weird to me, because he kind of like, he does a heel turn too, and it could work, but I think it's because it's surrounded by all the little Ewok stuff that it feels weird. I don't know if I'm making any sense, but like, it's just...
No, you absolutely are. Here's the thing, right?
Yeah. Explain this for me.
I'll explain it. I'll explain it in the way I've always explained this movie. This movie has some of the best stuff in the trilogy. Specifically, in my opinion, all the stuff between Luke, Vader, and the Emperor, and all the stuff on the Death Star is some of the best Star Wars stuff in the entire series. I love it. It's brimming with tension. There's emotion. The music is just incredible during their duel they have. And it's just a great little climate. And oh my god, Ian McDiarmid as the Emperor is one of the best fucking actors.
Right.
He is having he is probably the actor who has the most fun being evil I've ever seen. Except for, ironically, maybe Mark Hamill also has a lot of fun being evil.
Yeah.
But yeah, all of that stuff is great, and even a lot of the stuff with the beginning stuff on Tatooine against Jabba, I think a lot of that stuff does work.
Yeah, I just think coming off, and now sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but just coming off the heels of I keep wanting to say Return of the Jedi. That's Empire. This one, Empire Strikes Back. It just, I don't know, it felt weird to me. It just felt a little disjointed, I guess. But I get there's a time skip, and you know.
Here's the reason why. That stuff is incredible. However, it's packaged with what I think is not great pacing and tone.
Yeah.
And by that I mean consistent tone.
Yeah.
So the pacing problems is that I do think the Tatooine stuff is a little too drawn out. It does take a little too long to save Han and get off Tatooine. I think in the end it is fulfilling, in that it is a pretty exciting climax to that, where you get to see, Leia kill Jabba, and then Boba Fett's dead, and they get away in this big explosion, and that's all cool.
Isn't it the same thing where he throws Han a gun, Han's upside down, and he has to like shoot the guys? That's cool. Yeah,
that's a pretty cool bit. But then you get to the Force Moon of Endor, and the movie slows down to a crawl during this part, where you have them trying to go through the Force. This is a cool little speeder scene. I like the speeder bike scene. That's neat. But they get with the Ewoks. They get captured by the Ewoks. They have to get out of that by having C-3PO be like their new god,
Yeah.
And then they have like the bit where Luke talks to Obi-Wan, Oh, they also have the bit where I forgot. He goes back to Dagobah. We have the death of Yoda, which I really like. That's really good.
Yeah. Okay.
And then he goes out and talks to Obi-Wan. It's like, what I told you was true from a certain point of view. And it's like, Leia is also your sister. But yeah, back on Endor, as I was saying.
A little bit after the Yoda thing, isn't it also the talk with Luke and Leia, or is that later?
Yeah, that's on Endor after they C-3PO becomes an Ewok god.
Okay.
But yeah, they have that. They have them planning the climax, and Luke saying like, I have to go and confront Vader, so I'm gonna have to leave you guys. They have a lot of planning, and it just really is like, it really does bring the movie to a crawl. And then that compounded with the tonal dissonance you have between the super emotional and epic showdown between Luke and Vader, which is what the entire trilogy has been building to, and the battle between the stormtroopers and the Ewoks, and Han trying to get to the get into the shield bunker. And then you also, on top of all that, have Lando on the Falcon doing the space battle outside the Death Star, which, by the way, is one of my favorite space battles in the series. I think it holds up so well, the effects and the ships going around. I think it's a great battle. I just think, one, there's just a little too much going on, which they compound with Phantom Menace when they have 4 climaxes going on at the same time. Oh boy, wait till we get there. The tonal dissonance between the 3 different set pieces, where you have, the exciting space battle, you have kind of the cute little Ewok stuff going on, while also having oh no, Han gets shot. That's fucking crazy. Is he gonna die? He's probably not gonna die. And then of course you have the emotional weight of the Luke and Vader climax.
Yeah,
it just doesn't gel well, and it takes too long to get to, and it's just a little. It's just messy,
Yeah, maybe that's it. I think that it does feel a little messy because now when you're saying it, like I said, I feel like it meanders to get to the end because I do think I like the ending. I like when Jada Vader's talking to Luke, and I think he says, Luke, I think, also tries to convince him to come to the light side. And I think Vader says something of like, you don't know the power of the dark. Like, you don't know how strong.
It's too late for me.
Yeah. And then I think Luke responds with like, then like my father is truly gone or like truly dead. And that's some cool shit. But I don't know. It's like fucking, and it's not nearly as bad. I'll definitely choose this movie over that movie 10 times out of 10. But it's kind of like Thor, Love and Thunder, where it's like I kind of wish this was just a serious movie, but I also understand. So you have to kind of have a little levity, and you can still have that in a serious movie, though. That's the thing.
Well, one of the reasons that Empire actually was not very well received when it first came out because it was a lot darker than the first movie.
Wow.
So I think Lucas might have wanted to walk that back and make it a little more kid friendly for the finale.
If that's the case, then I can't argue with.
I mean, you can. They still made a creative decision that was for the worse. You know?
That's true, but. Yeah, so because I still think you could have had a lighthearted, then just shielded behind something that was like a little levity,
especially considering in retrospect how lauded Empire is for being this masterclass of tone and storytelling and narrative and all that. But it's just one of those things where it sounds really bad to say. I don't want to sit down and watch this entire movie. Almost ever, just because I just love some of the stuff that's in the climax, and I love some of the stuff that's in the beginning, and like a little bit that's in the middle. But going all the way through is just like, I'm just sitting here. There's a lot of scenes of just Ewoks talking, and I can't understand them, and
C-3PO being their lord.
Yep.
But
if it makes you feel it better, the Ewoks it was originally supposed to be the Wookiee planet, so Chewbacca was going to meet like all his Wookiee friends, but they realized it was too expensive to make all those Wookiee costumes, so they decided that they could save half the production cost by making them tiny Ewoks.
By making them have the people they are.
Yeah.
So
and I like the theming of the indigenous Ewok population standing up against the might of the Empire. I think that's actually a good theme. Because that makes sense. But it's just like they have like the Ewoks doing log traps to destroy the big chicken walkers, right?
Yeah.
And then right after that, you have a scene where an Ewok gets shot. It's like, and he dies, and another Ewok is crying over his body. It's like, what are we doing here? You can't have these fucking teddy bear creatures doing all these cute noises and using these cute little Home Alone traps to destroy the Empire. And then one of them just has a dramatic fucking death scene, and we're supposed to be like, oh man, this sucks. I don't know, man.
I think I'm gonna go back to how I felt originally watching it with you, and you couldn't have told me that Ewok scene or the Ewok whole thing wasn't gonna last 15 minutes and they're gonna get off that planet. You could not have told me that the rest of the movie was gonna like be on that planet, or sorry, the moon. And I was so disappointed, and I don't know what I was expecting. I guess I was just expecting more. I just wanted more of the Luke stuff and just like all of this coming to a head, and it does. It's just
I appreciate that they wanted to tell a climax where all the characters got to do something important. You know, Han and Leia are working to destroy the shield generator. Lando is working to destroy the shield around the Death Star, or like trying to make a distraction. And Luke is there to defeat the Emperor and Darth Vader, you know? I appreciate that they tried to do that. I just think they needed to make it more tonally consistent.
Yeah. I can get down with that. I think
so.
Granted, this movie feels like more akin to Across the Spider-Verse to me. Like, I think Across the Spider-Verse is doing a lot, but I think what's cool about Across the Spider-Verse, even though it ends more like Empire Strikes Back, I think the like pacing and everything, or maybe not the pacing, but like the framework of like what they're trying to do in Across the Spider-Verse is what Lucas kind of wanted to do with this movie, if that makes sense.
Right.
Like Across the Spider-Verse there's silly scenes, there's goofy scenes, it's funny, but once the tone switches, it feels natural to that movie. When fucking Spot is like, I'm gonna actually just kill your family so you know how it feels. The rest of that movie, you understand what Miles is going through.
I mean, even like as soon as he starts like the getaway from Oscar Isaac, Miguel O'Hara. As soon as he starts like that chase getaway sequence, like the rest of the movie is basically serious from that point on. Like there's jokes here and there, but they're very tasteful in how they respect the tone that they're trying to keep with.
Right.
It's not just like, it's not like the jokes they were making before where it's like, you get all the really fast pace, like when they first get into the Indian kind of dimension where it's just like joke, with like a lot of colorful scenes and animation. Once they start that, it's like they make a climax that is allowed to take the time for levity and jokes, but it still respects the tone that they're trying to hold.
Yeah. Yep.
And I don't think they did that as well in this movie. I did not think we'd be going into this podcast comparing Return of the Jedi to Across the Spider-Verse.
But it works.
But here we are.
But it works. You underestimate the power of the Force, Riley.
I guess. It was
you
all
made bio and ready.
The will of the Force brought us here, didn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, But I mean, if you want to get back into the movie, is there like really specific things you wanted to talk about with like the ending portion or like the beginning, the parts that you really do like, is there anything that really sticks out to you?
I've kind of mentioned it all. I think I love I love when Luke finally just snaps and just starts wailing on Vader, and he just completely overpowers him. And just the music is like they have like an operatic score at this point where it's like, oh, it's just like yeah. It's just like, holy fuck, this is fucking hardcore, dude.
You can see like it's like fucking Luke's face, like Mark Hamill just like it's so crazy. Vicious, like
and then he cuts off Vader's hand, and then he's seeing Vader just lying there, and then he looks at his own hand. It's like that's good stuff, man. That is tonally like Empire, that is the tonal resolution that I was looking for there. It's great, man. Oh, also
fucking Palpatine, like, do it. Finish it.
Complete your training. No,
your hate has made you powerful.
I can also mention Return of the Jedi has one of my least. It is my least favorite special edition change in the entire series. Where instead of just like watching as like when Palpatine's gonna kill Luke, instead they go, no.
And he pushes him.
It's so stupid. Because you know what they did in the original? He just looks down, looks at the Emperor, is like, fuck this, I'm Darth Vader, I'm gonna get this shit done. Pick bam, done. It's so perfect. And this, they just turn him into,
No.
It's so bad. Oh, it's so bad. I hate it so much, dude. I can't believe they changed that. I can't believe they added that, I should say. Terrible, man. So terrible. Because it also reminds me of the disgrace of Darth Vader from the prequel trilogy, which we'll get to, you know.
Yeah.
Fuck me.
No.
So bad, man. No! It's... I hate it. I hate it so much. Oh, and the fucking CGI dance scene at Jabba's palace.
Oh my god.
What was that? That was so stupid.
I forgot about that.
Oh.
I forgot. No, I didn't get to go off. I breezed over it. I hate the fact that Leia's like this damsel in distress. And granted, I'm not saying you can't put her in. I'm not saying she has to be this like fucking crazy ass kicker or whatever. No, that's not what I'm saying at all. She can be a damsel if you want her to be a damsel sometimes. It's just the way they go about it feels so distasteful. It's like they're like, you like this character, right? You think she's like a powerful woman? Yeah, you like that? Yeah, no. We got something for you. And it's like, I don't know. To me personally, it felt a little distasteful. It felt
I
a little
like how
backhanded.
she's the one who gets to kill Jabba in the end. Like, she strangles
fair.
him. I think that's cool. I honestly think it's more annoying that she doesn't get a bigger part to play in the climax. Like, everyone feels like they have a good part. I think Leia feels like she has the least to do in the climax.
Yeah, she
like,
also
she's
gets
just
shot.
with Han. Yes. Oh, is she the one that gets shot?
She
Oh,
gets shot
okay,
in the
sorry.
shoulder, I think.
Yeah, I thought it was Han for some reason. Yeah, my bad. Yeah, I don't know, man. It is what it is, you know?
Fine.
Star Wars is what it is, and I still, like, even though it is my least favorite of the original trilogy, I still think it's, like, it's honestly better than most of the other Star Wars movies.
Okay,
I'm
well,
not
I'm gonna reserve my judgment, but I'm gonna say, from what I've seen and heard, it sounds like it's a lot better than most of the things that come out of Star Wars.
I'd be interested to compare it to Force Awakens.
Yeah, I can't wait till we get to
Love
Force
to
Awakens.
rewatch
I am a huge Force Awakens sympathizer, but it's also maybe because it was my first Star Wars movie, and I think what it was trying to set up was really cool in concept.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we'll talk about it.
I'm interested to talk about that again. I would very much like to watch that because I too I too will vehemently defend The Force Awakens compared to its
brothers and sisters
within that trilogy.
Yeah,
And even Last Jedi, I have a lot to like about it. I also have a lot to not like about it.
The since Force Awakens ends, you just find myself going, no. All right, man.
So
yeah.
that's all I have to say. You
Yeah,
know, we came into this knowing we weren't going to be saying anything new, but we're saying it in our own flavor, I guess.
I want to take a step back and say, I think if I had saw these movies when I was younger, I definitely think I would be a Star Wars fan, you know, like a real fan. I don't consider myself that.
Keeps up with all the shows and stuff that come out.
Yeah, you know, just like how I feel about Marvel. Though I think low key, you might can say this about Marvel, but I would speak personally and say I think I probably would have dropped out of Star Wars a lot sooner than like how I feel about Marvel now. Because Marvel,
I mean, that's basically what I am. I mean, like I watched the prequels growing up. I watched the original trilogy growing up. I watched the Genndy Tartakovsky Clone Wars series.
Yeah.
I watched a tiny bit of the
like Cartoon Network.
I'm trying to think of the guy who did the guy who did the first season of Avatar. What's his name? The guy with the cowboy hat. Fuck. I could just move on from this, but yes. I really do want to find his name. It is Dave Filoni.
Yeah.
The Dave Filoni series I watched a little bit of. And then I watched the first two of the sequel trilogy when they came out. And then after that, like I watched the first season of The Mandalorian. And then I stopped. And I have not kept up with Star Wars since, just because I don't even know why. I just don't care anymore. I think I've come to the understanding that I love the original trilogy, and the way I want the universe of Star Wars to be expressed and to express itself is not the way that the greater storytellers want
Yep.
it to go.
I
You
I
know?
I agree. I think that's another thing is like being kind of disconnected from Star Wars. I guess I have an opinion that may not be uh favored by a lot of fans or whatever.
Hmm.
But to me, I think you could take the bare bones of like the Force and Jedi and stuff and kind of keep that, but throw away everything else. Like I don't need the Skywalkers. I don't need the
I mean, that's what they that's what they did when they destroyed the extended canon.
Yeah, that's true. But I meant like in the sense of like it's called Star Wars. So just keep wars are started over like, oh my god, I'm so sorry guys. I didn't know a helicopter was going over from if you guys hear that, my bad. But yeah, it's called Star Wars. Wars are started over like many different things. So just take the concepts of like the Force and stuff and put that into a different galaxy, if you will, or like a different
Put your fetish for Tatooine aside and pick a different place to set a story.
Right. It's just like they have such a hard on for fucking Skywalkers. Like, let it go.
Yeah, I think the difference between Star Wars and Marvel is like Star Wars, I don't care about the stories they want to tell. Marvel, I don't care for the quality that they're delivering their products in.
Yeah.
You know, I care about the stories that Marvel wants to tell. I just can't deal with the quality that they're telling those stories in. Whereas Star Wars is just like, I don't care about a show about Boba Fett. You know, I don't care about a show about what Obi-Wan did between Revenge of the Jedi and A New Hope.
Yeah.
I don't care about like fucking. I just don't care about the stories that they want to tell. I want something just different,
refreshing,
you know? And that's what people say Andor is. And I haven't seen it, and it's probably great, but I just, I just don't care. I really, I don't care about Star Wars that much. You know, Star Wars is one of those things where people are fiendish over it.
Yep.
I love the original trilogies. I'd love to laugh at the prequels, and beyond that, I just don't care.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep. That's the thing is like sowing a feeling of like not caring. I can't think of the word, but like just it's just like, and that's crazy for me as an outsider. When I look at the content, I'm like, I don't even care. I'm like, damn, that's crazy. They can't even get me invested. Like I see something, a new show, and I'm like, oh my god, Boba Fett. Like, oh my god, Obi-Wan, can we let these guys go? And I was talking to my roommates about this because we had a whole rant, especially after Acolyte. Holy fuck, that show. It's like one of the worst shows I've seen in like a good time. Like I would argue, like as a newcomer to Star Wars, I would hate Star Wars if that was the first thing I saw. But yeah, it's like,
wow.
I was ranting about that in my brain, like kind of just cut off. But yeah, as like I just don't understand why sorry, here we go. I don't understand why they're so afraid to touch the sequel stuff they've done. I'm so sick of like prequel things
because people hated it.
Okay, but like at this point I would respect it more if they doubled down on that. It was like, okay, you don't like it, let me make it better.
Exactly, and that's what's so shit about Episode 9. People had their problems with The Last Jedi, but instead of deciding to stick with the decisions they made and just trying to improve on what people didn't like, they just threw it away and decided to do something completely different, and it turned out even worse because they didn't have the balls to actually have an original fucking idea for a story.
And that's the thing. It's like, the fandom don't know what they like. You have to show them why they should like it. That's I don't know.
Especially with something like Star Wars, where you have people who grew up with the originals and they love them, people who grew up with the prequels and they love them, people who grew up with the sequels and they love them. The fandom is so
revisionist history bullshit on the prequels because people didn't like the prequels until the fucking sequel. You know how many times I saw online like the prequels getting shitted on, and then all of a sudden the sequels come out and people are like, you know what, the prequels aren't that bad.
It was slightly before the sequels, but it exploded after the sequels came out. Everyone was like, dude, the prequels were so much better. You know, they may not have been perfect, but they were original stories. It's like, they were shit stories. Don't you fucking try and tell me otherwise. Those movies are fucking trash tier. Don't you fucking tell me otherwise.
I would give the prequels one thing over the sequels, and that's the fact that they were crafted and thought about and written down before they shot plan. Anything. They had a plan. Now the plan executed very, very poorly, but they had a plan. I don't know what the fuck they were thinking with the sequels. I don't like.
Man, it'll be a whole fucking thing. But it just I've said my piece. Yeah. I love what I love about Star Wars, but if I really want to invest myself in a sci-fi world, I'm gonna go Star Trek. That's just me. That's I grew up loving both the original Star Trek series and Next Gen, and even a little bit of Deep Space Nine, a little bit of Voyager, a little bit of Enterprise. I've seen a little bit of everything. I fucking hate Into Darkness. I will never fucking forgive them for that.
I know you don't like Into Darkness.
Someday, Chris, you and I are going to sit down and watch Wrath of Khan together, and you will understand why I think it is the best sci-fi movie ever made.
I've seen Wrath of Khan, but I was a lot younger, so I don't remember.
You are going to agree with me that it is the best sci-fi movie ever made.
Okay.
And
I'm down.
And all in all, I still like Star Wars. I like the originals. I think they are great movies.
Okay.
But they really it got away from them. Also, the original Battlefront games are great, and so are the original Lego Star Wars.
Force Unleashed is amazing.
I played a little bit of them. I never finished.
Force Unleashed is my very first introduction to Star Wars anything. I saw the trailer for that game and I was like, I want that fucking game, and I got it on fucking Wii, which was like one of the best consoles to have it on, because you could actually wield the lightsaber. The sound of the saber would come through the speaker.
Oh, give the Wiimote speaker. That's great.
Yo, and like you could so when you slice something right, and then it made contact, it would make the sound the contact too. So it was like, dude.
Oh, to vibrate the Wiimote too. Oh, that'd be so...
God.
I don't remember what console. I feel like I had it on 360, but I might have had one of them on Wii. Oh my god, dude.
You would have like lightsaber clashes with whoever you're fighting against, and you had to it's like on controller, right? Like regular controller, you had to shake the right stick, right? On Wii, you had to push, right? Like actually put, dude. Yes, Force Unleashed, fucking top tier. Nothing's ever stopping that. The story was fucking phenomenal. I'm upset that Disney fucking did away with all of the Star Wars other lore or whatever. But yeah, that's my shit. All right, so we're approaching 2 hours. I'm gonna get us off of this so we can save some of this stuff for the prequels and the sequels. But usually I end it with a question related to whatever we're discussing.
I feel like one time you asked me my favorite soups, or maybe I asked you that.
Okay, you know what? What's your favorite soup, Riley?
Oh, I don't know. Fucking wedding soup.
Wedding soup? What the fuck is wedding soup?
Isn't there a soup with meatballs in it? Hang on.
Wedding soup?
It's Italian wedding soup. Yep, that's what it's called. I've
never heard of
meatballs in it, and Parmesan cheese and onion powder. Anyway, ask me a real question.
Oh, okay. I was gonna ask a very simple question.
Go for it.
Out of the four masters we've seen, who would you like to be the mentee of? Obi-Wan, Yoda, Darth Vader, or Palpatine? And why?
All right, I'm not picking Palpatine or Darth Vader. I love him, but that's probably a recipe for disaster right there. Yeah, I'm not into that whole dark side nonsense. Man, it's tough because Yoda obviously has the most vast understanding of the Force. As I said, best scene, he explains the Force to Luke, and he really feels like he has a true understanding and love for the Force.
Yeah,
as another YouTuber once said. But Obi-Wan, I also Obi-Wan is just a pal. I would hang around Obi-Wan outside of training. Yoda, I'm not so sure about. Yoda, he's kind of a stick in the mud. So, it depends if I'm really interested in training as a Jedi, in which case I'd probably go with Yoda, or if it's something I'd like to, pick up as a hobby and have a friend like Obi-Wan. And I'm really lazy, so I think I'm gonna go with Obi-Wan.
Okay. I think I'm gonna go Vader. And
Okay.
that's because I think Vader is very stoic, and I think he almost touches levels of understanding of the Force like Yoda.
Mhm.
It's also clouded with misjudgment, you know? And I think I'm a pretty strong-willed guy. So I think
Yeah.
I could take what he's saying and use that to my advantage to use it for the light side. But I think the things that he would be saying would be based in truth about the Force. So I'm gonna go Vader.
Also, you're a big fan of the Force Unleashed, so
Yeah,
you're
that's
biased towards Vader as a
yeah,
as a master.
yeah, that's very true. God,
Fair
Riley,
enough.
we're gonna play Force Unleashed together, and then we're gonna review it on the pod.
Okay,
Yeah,
fair
we're
enough.
gonna review the story.
One of them, we'll just do all the Star Wars games together.
We get to play Lego Star Wars together.
Oh my
I
god,
love
dude.
Lego Star Wars and Lego Indiana Jones. So
Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Anyway,
Fair enough.
that was the Up and After podcast.
That was fun.
That was fun. I can't wait until we do the prequels, but that's not next.
Mhm.
Next, I
What's
think
up
we
next?
should do like a random movie, or
Okay.
we should do obviously Marvel. We can do what's
Iron Man
next?
2.
Iron Man 2, yeah. I love our Marvel content, so
Yeah.
it's just fun.
Well, also we're gonna start doing these monthly, so we're not gonna
Yeah.
take an over a year break.
It would be
We're gonna try and
nice
find time to do this.
if we can load these up too. Like, we might release them monthly, but we have them kind of done already.
We have them stockpiled in case the disaster strikes and we
Yeah.
can't get together to record for a year.
Yeah.
Nah, dude, I'm always down to do these, and hopefully we can do them at least monthly. Is my hope. We can
Yeah.
release one of these.
I need to start like posting them on YouTube because I'm really good about posting them like to DSPs, but I just need to post them to YouTube more. YouTube's different because I do really want like video content
Yeah.
for that and not just audio. But it'll be
Right.
good just in case if we ever, I don't know if that's in the future, but if we ever like fully flush this out, that people could go back and listen to like some of our older stuff. But yeah, that's to talk about off the pod. Anyway, yeah, thank you guys for listening, and yeah, that's it. You got any closing remarks, Charlie?
We saw to a galaxy far, far away to see many delights and wonders, and we came away a little wiser, I think.
And when you look around you, everything that you see, everything you feel is the Force.
It's all around us in the midichlorians.
And speaking of Force, make sure you go ahead and force a like and a share button, and
That'd be cool.
force yourself to follow us on the medias. Riley, you wanna discuss what?
I'm Weisolation on YouTube,
Mhm.
so you can find me there. Also, Weisolation on Twitch, which I may or may not stream. And that's it. I don't do.
like you say that
Yeah.
each time too.
Well, I think I streamed sometime this year or maybe last year.
Yeah.
But mainly just YouTube, Twitch. I don't do Twitter. I don't do Facebook, Instagram, any of that. TikTok. If you're looking at my YouTube page, I haven't uploaded in a month, but that's because I've been working on a video where I'm going to be ranking every zone from World of Warcraft. So if you want to
Ooh.
check that out, it's going to be a pretty long one, but hopefully that turns out well. And then I'll
Nice.
be able to get back to my regularly scheduled programming because I have like over 70 gigs worth of videos on my fucking drive that I need to upload.
Fair.
I have a completed fucking KH3 level 1 series that I have just sitting around that I need to upload. But yeah, you can check all that out. And then Chris, you give your more important socials.
Not really more important. You're actually consistent. Up and After, of course, this will be hopefully uploaded onto the YouTube channel of Up and After. Modern Day Age on all platforms: YouTube, Twitter, Instagram is Rose Color Boy with 2 Y's, Modern Day Age with 2 E's on Twitter, and Modern Day Age regular on YouTube. I like movies, so I want to make them, and that's kind of what my content is for on YouTube. So if you're interested in that, cool. I'm just not as consistent because movies take a very long time to make. So there you go.
It's neat though.
Thank
Got
you.
some neat stuff when it does come out.
Thank you. That actually made my heart flutter. But yeah, that's it, and we're out.
Bye bye.